Hello, I hope you've had a chance to look at the first video I did on using the roles played in families cards, the one that introduced all the characters to you. This is part 2 when I'm going to show you how to use the label cards that you'll find at the back of the pack. This is the pack you get, and right at the back you'll find 3 sheets, and I'm going to share with you today how you use them. These are a bit more based on transactional analysis, which counsellors will mostly be familiar with, and we have childhood labels and adulthood labels so that you can use the cards for both when you were small and how life is now. So now I'm going to do a demonstration with an imaginary client of how it might be used, how the cards come into play, and particularly how you use the labels. So these are the white labels, which are the people in your family of childhood: father, mother, brother, sister, step-parents, grandparents, step-siblings, aunts, uncles, me. And obviously you might need to make a few copies of this because families can be quite complicated. And I'm going to create a client who has 2 sisters and a brother. So cutting out the cards, you then lay them out on the table. You will know who your client's family of origin were, you'll know who was in the family, and now let's see what happens next. So I'm going to call my client Lindy, and she had 2 sisters and a brother, as I said. And what I might say, Lindy, was there anybody else who was significant in your childhood, a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle? But to keep things simple, we will just stay with these core relationships. And I would then begin by saying, okay, Lindy, who was the strongest character in your family? Who do you want to start with? Lindy is going to choose mother. And then I say, okay, we know what all the cards are now. Lindy's been through the cards. What comes to mind when you think of mother? Well, straight away she says, well, she was a volcano. She was so angry all the time, and she controlled the atmosphere in our home. And I was scared of her, and she would carry on talking in this way and exploring the other cards. Oh, she could play the martyr. My goodness, you know, I will make you realize how awful you've been as children and how difficult you've made my life, and so on. And I would give her plenty of time to explore mother. Then next she chose to go to look at who her father was. Oh, what a contrast. Her father may as well have been invisible. He was the ostrich who buried his head in the sand, ignoring the mother, keeping out of her way, very, very passive. There is a card for passive, so she chose that one. Oh, I just like a quiet life. He'd take himself off to the shed in the garden and keep out of the way. And so she's beginning to tell me what her life was using the pictures. There were 2 sisters and a brother. And I was interested to know what she would choose for them, knowing obviously quite a bit about her story. What was very interesting is that she chose the same cards for her brother as she had done for her father. They may as well not have been in the family, she said. I never knew where my brother was half the time. He was just an invisible character. However, my younger sister was a complete spoilt brat, and she just wanted to have everyone paying her attention the whole time. The older sister I thought was very interesting because she was a volcano and a drama queen. And I began to see what was happening in the family. There was the volcano in the one sister and the mother, that was the same. And I kind of got the impression that the sister and the mother had very similar roles in a way, or created a similar dynamic. And then looking at the father and the brother, how interesting, as we say. Well, one of the most important things for me to find out was what was happening to Lindy in this household. I put the me card down and said, okay, Lindy, that's you. Which cards are you going to choose for you? Well, straight away, she said, I tried to be the peacemaker. I tried to make everyone calm down and stop fighting one another, especially my sisters and my mother. I tried to keep my head down, and I think I was actually Mummy's little helper, big time. I tried to keep her happy and please her. I was definitely the good girl. I was so different from my sisters. I thought it was my job to make the family work. And I guess I became a bit of a reverse role parent. Listening to my mum moaning on. I didn't challenge her, I didn't fight back. I just took it all. I took it all inside of me. And I just realised that all my cards are green. I'm all the rescuer roles. And Lindy became quite silent and concerned at what had happened to her in the middle of her family. So we looked together at what had happened to Lindy in the middle of this family. She was disappearing, and all the roles were green as she had identified that she was the rescuer, and she was getting lost, surrounded by all the chaos. Where was her true self, her core self? And also an interesting question to ask the client now is, are you still doing this now when you meet this kind of person? Just want to say a quick word about the cards. Those of you that are familiar with transactional analysis will know some of these terms. But basically, it's how we feel about ourselves inside. It's technically called an ego state. And if I'm in a nurturing parent ego state, I'm loving, supportive and compassionate. That's the big heart. If I'm in a free child place, we had great fun with these pictures, then I'm inquisitive, spontaneous, like to play, and very much my true self. In my adult, this is about balance, about being able to weigh things up and making sense of our world, and about having good relationships that are mutual and interdependent, where we're neither a victim nor someone trying to be too critical of other people. The structuring parent is all about boundaries, being able to say no, drawing the line, thus far and no further. That's such an important work to do with clients. And the red card, the caution card, actually gives me the right to end a relationship that is really toxic to me. Big step, very important step sometimes, and one that would need a lot of exploration, but definitely sometimes we know with clients they need to walk away from situations that are making them unwell. So these are the cards, and I'll show you now how I use them with Lindy in her situation. There's no real set way of doing this. It will depend very much on the relationship you have with your client. But when I came to work with Lindy, it was a question of, so what is happening to you now? What happens when you meet the controllers, the volcanoes, the drama queens? What's your default reaction? Also, as an adult, where have you got to in your relationships with the invisible ostriches? Are you still going back into the rescuer roles? How can we work together to help you be different with people you meet like this today? These label cards offer various possibilities. We had quite fun with the free child one. The free child is, hey Lindy, are you having enough fun in your life? This is the inquisitive, true self that can come out to play and really bring more freedom into who we are. Remember, we saw that she got very lost in the family dynamic. What happened to her fun, playful self? What happened to her structuring parent, that bit inside of us that says, I need boundaries, I need to be able to say no? Well, that wasn't there at all in her childhood, but through the work she was doing in therapy, that was coming through much more now. Lindy, her old default place would be just to love everybody and say, I will just put up with your behaviour. As Lindy grew more self-aware and had more self-confidence and more self-worth, she went through a stage with saying, right, I'm going to end all those relationships. I'm fed up with people who play the drama queen and try and control me, and I've had enough with passive men. I'm not having them anymore in my life. And somewhere we needed to try and help her get some other alternatives. Boundaries, really important. And what about her future relationships? As an adult now, we were working together to help her build balanced, mutual and interdependent relationships, so that as her inner child was healing, so her adult self was making good and wise choices for the future. A lot of work to be done, great deal of work to be done, but a very, very rewarding journey. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful and interesting. And just to say that we do training days on working with the cards so that you can get together with other counsellors and practice on each other. And I'll be giving details of that at the end. So there are more videos to come. Please subscribe and then you can get notified when we put more up. And thank you again.